Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome at Expo 2020 Dubai. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome you all here this morning and to share with you a few thoughts about sustainable finance. I think it was due that finally our Swiss banks are here together with our Minister for Finance. Thank you so much, Excellency, for your participation with your powerful delegation today at our work here at Expo 2020 Dubai. You have been here 2 years ago to lay the first stone of the Swiss pavilion in this, it was not an expo site, it was a kind of a desert where construction was starting, but it was really difficult to imagine what that would be at the very end. And I keep saying that now all the sand that we had here before is within the UAE pavilion. The change here was extremely rapid. We went through 6 months of an expo which didn't go really as we planned, but I think that all of us, we managed to make it a major success. And if it was a major success, it's not only because of people participated, and by the way, we had here all stakeholders of the society, we had here the governments of almost all the governments around the world, we had companies, we had NGOs, we had families, we had kids, which is very important. So everybody came here. But I would say that mainly the success of this expo was done by all those who managed to come here to do events, to bring content. That's what we have done. Also, Switzerland is not playing a small role here at Expo, not only because we have been the very first country that confirmed participation, but as you probably know, we are chairing the steering committee of all participating countries, and we became a kind of a privileged counterpart of the organizer of the Expo, which is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And for us, of course, for Switzerland, this is very much important. Paradoxically, and in spite of the circumstances we went through during these last 2 years, we have been able to strengthen a lot our cooperation with the UAE in many areas. I mentioned the Expo, where we are not small here. I would like to mention the pharma. You may not know, but most of the testing that we have been doing here in the UAE, and we have been tested a lot, is either managed or provided by a Swiss company. And of course, financial services is one of those areas where we are particularly present here in the UAE, and believe me, the presence of our financial institution is very much appreciated here in terms of the solution that we are willing and able to bring to the UAE in order to develop even further the country and also the relationship that we have with the UAE. And this is what we are doing today because, as I said before, Minister Ueli Maurer is here with an extremely powerful delegation of the business and of the official sector, and we are here not only to discuss concepts related to sustainable finance, but I think that we are here also in order to bring solution in a very pragmatic way, which is the way we are working very much in Switzerland. So without further ado, I'm very much pleased to hand over the floor to my Minister of Finance, Excellency Ueli Maurer. Dear Minister, thank you.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome. For me, that's a great pleasure to be here today, and I'm happy to open this Finance Suisse event. Finance Suisse is a cooperation between the financial sector and the government in Switzerland. The platform serves as a single entry point to people who want to know more about Swiss financial center So go and find out more about us. We are small in size, but in financial matters, Switzerland is one of the leading countries in the world. Our financial sector, with over 200 banks and 200 insurance companies and hundreds of fintech startups, has a big international network like no other financial center in the world. This offers great potential for Switzerland. On the one hand, Switzerland can increase its competitiveness with a focus on a sustainable financial economy. On the other hand, our financial sector can offer solutions worldwide that enable the transition to a carbon-neutral economy. The Swiss government has high ambitions. We want the Swiss Financial Center to be among the world leaders in sustainable finance. We don't just talk about. We are planning the issuance of green bonds by the Swiss Confederation. We are working on transparency regulations for climate reporting by large companies. And we are the first country to develop a climate label for financial services. I'm convinced that the Swiss combination of traditional strengths such as stability, security, and trust, combined with innovation, can greatly contribute to the success of the transition to a carbon-neutral economy. The high-ranking representatives of banks and insurance here on the podium will be happy to explain how this can be done in concrete terms and with Swiss know-how. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister. I think that it's easy for me now to set the scene for this event because we have really the great chance to have with us Marcel Rohner, who is the chairman of the Swiss Bankers Association. When I was young, I was told that this is from far the most powerful association that we have in Switzerland. I don't think that it changed very much. The task of the association, it's an umbrella association, and the task of the Swiss Bankers Association is to provide the better possible regulatory framework for doing business in Switzerland in the field of financial services. Mr. Rohner and Minister Maurer are supposed to be best friends. And this is why we work in Switzerland, where the private and the public sectors is working hand in hand to perform as we do in Switzerland. Marcel Rohner has been the vice chairman of the board of directors of the Union Bancaire Privée in Geneva since 2016 and has also served on the board of directors of Helvetische Bank since 2012. Prior to that, between 2002 and 2009, he held various positions at UBS in Switzerland, including as a member of the Group Executive Board and CEO. He began his banking career in 1992, so you celebrate 30 years. Congratulations. And I think that this is for sure the best credentials that makes you particularly the right person to talk to all of us right now. Please, Mr. Rohner, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Ambassador, Excellencies, dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for this very kind introduction. I wasn't aware that it's my 30th anniversary in banking industry. I've experienced about 60 or 70 crises during these 30 years. We're still here, and that shows something about resilience, both of our institutions, but also of Swiss bankers. It is a great honor and pleasure for me to introduce this panel on the topic financing the transition to a carbon neutral economy. And I would like to make 2 points. There is more to say about sustainability and the activity of Swiss Bankers Association together with the government around sustainability, which we will also address in the second panel today. So I would want to focus on 2 points introducing this panel here. GFANZ, the Global Financial Alliance on Net Zero, is in my view one of the big game changers when it comes to carbon neutrality. Carbon neutrality is one of 17 sustainability goals, but undoubtedly the one which is most urgent and on top of most of the sustainable investors' agenda. So why is it a breakthrough and a game changer? For the first time, the focus is on change in carbon emission and not on footprint. Sounds trivial, but is essential, because now investors can invest in portfolios which are consistent with the goal to be carbon neutral in 2050, which is consistent with what has been agreed in Paris and thereafter, and has been declared as an objective by many governments around the world. Probably the most important thing happens through the effect GFANZ has on the real economy, because it will act as a pressure point. Through disclosure requirements, and Minister Willy Maurer has addressed the initiatives of the Swiss government with respect to climate-related disclosure, also with respect to defining a green label. Through these requirements and initiatives, more and more firms will commit to a 2050 net zero goal. In Switzerland, for example, the main economic association, Economy Suisse, is now recommending to all its members to participate in a science-based target initiative, which would be a basis for a disclosure which is consistent with the requirements of TCFD. That in turn will make them require from their suppliers and clients consistency with these goals, because they want to be scope 2 and 3 compliant. This will be a snowball effect, and I can tell you with all conviction as the train has already left the station. There are more and more firms doing that, more and more firms complying. The universe of assets investors can invest in which are compliant with net zero 2050 is growing exponentially. And this is why the Swiss Bankers Association has decided at its latest board meeting that we will apply for observer status at the Global Financial Alliance for Net Zero, and we recommend all our member institutions to participate in one of these net zero initiatives, which I think is a major step in our way to carbon neutrality. The second point is on financing. Now, as Minister Maurer has said, we are a small country, so the calculation results in slightly smaller numbers maybe than we would talk about global numbers. But the Swiss Bankers Association commissioned a study in cooperation with the Boston Consulting Group to assess how much money will it actually cost to become carbon neutral in 2050. And the number is, for Switzerland, 390 billion Swiss francs over a span of 30 years. Nearly 30% of those investments concern private traffic and mobility and housing, which are the big drivers of CO2 emission in Switzerland. This translates into an annual investment of roughly 12 billion, or somewhere between 1.5% to 2% of our GDP per year. And this will be about 50% of the bank's lending in Switzerland. So the good news is, it is financeable. The banks are ready to do so. It is in fact a business opportunity. And a lot of that financing is done through the renewal of existing buildings, the renewal of the heating systems of existing buildings, making them more climate friendly, but also the transition of all mobility from today's carbon-based methods to electric mobility or any other method which will develop over the years to come. The pressure is now focusing on the right initiatives, because it's not about a footprint, it's about how much the footprint is going to reduce over the coming years, and this is essential. And with these thoughts, I would like to open up for the panel and the subsequent discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I think that I was right. The Swiss Bankers Association remains a leading association for the well-being of Switzerland, in Switzerland and abroad. Now to conduct the panel discussion, we have the chance to have here our best friends from ADGM Abu Dhabi Global Market, together with the IFC, are the two main interlocutors of our Swiss banks here in the UAE, and we have many, more than 20 here in Dubai and 4 now in Abu Dhabi. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome here Mercedes Vela Monserrate, who is the head of sustainable finance at ADGM. She told me she's not the niece of Monserrate Caballé, the famous opera singer who was singing Barcelona together with Freddie Mercury. Please, Mrs. Monserrate, come.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I would also like now to invite the speakers for today. Please, if you could join me already on stage while I make the quick introduction. Thank you. Ambassador, first of all, thank you very much for making that clarification about my, my past. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here with all of you today. I think the introductions that we have had this morning set the scene very well for the panel discussion today. As mentioned, I am Mercedes Vela Monserrate, Head of Sustainable Finance at ADGM, Abu Dhabi's International Finances Center. And we're really very much looking forward to working with all of you to promote and scale up sustainable finance in the region. I'm delighted to have here with me today very distinguished panelists. Before we go into the panel discussion, let me briefly introduce them to you. Let me start with Veronica Scotti, Chairperson, Public Sector Solutions at Swiss Re. Welcome.
Thank you.
Iwan Deplazes, President of the Asset Management Association of Switzerland. Welcome. Peter Englund, Head of Zurich Commercial Insurance Operations in the Middle East and Africa. Welcome. Thomas Gottstein, CEO of Credit Suisse. And last but not least, Francesco Director General of IRENA, the International Renewable Energy Agency. Welcome. Thank you. So as I stated already in the introductory remarks, this year is an exciting year for climate change and climate solutions, particularly here in the Middle East. As you all know, Egypt will be hosting COP27 this year, and next year, the UAE will be hosting COP28. We have also seen some very important initiatives coming up in this region with the UAE Net Zero 2050 initiative, okay? Now, clearly, the global financial services industry has a crucial role to play in this transition. So let me just jump into it directly, and let me start with Veronica, perhaps, and then we move into Iwan and finally Thomas. What's the role of sustainable finance, of the sustainable financial services in supporting the transition to a greener economy?
Thank you, Mercedes, and thank you so much for having me. I'll keep my comments quite brief so we can have time for everyone. I think the role is fundamental, and it's for a few reasons. As we heard just a few minutes ago, the transition will be very expensive. We're looking actually over the transition period globally at something like 35 to 40 trillion US dollars required. And that's not immaterial. And as part of that transition, two things need to happen. First of all, we need to recognize that we've locked in some of the climate change costs, and that requires adaptation. And that's not even included in the figures that I've quoted. So as a representative of the financial institution insurance industry in Switzerland, but also globally, together with Peter, I can tell you that there will be a lot of need for national adaptation plans of governments to make sure that we're better prepared to face the reality, the physical risks of climate. On the other hand, more on the positive side, if we manage this transition really well, we will see a positive impact, economic benefit of 2 to 7 times higher than the current decarbonization, non-decarbonized economy. If we don't, and that's why as an organization we believe no action is not an option, we're looking at approximately 20% contraction globally of GDP by 2050. So the role that we can play as financial institutions that are risk-bearing is in helping in this transition process, because we do know that there is a lot of innovation, there is a lot of uncertainty in the transition, and that to mobilize really capital at scale, we need to be able to absorb some of this transition cost and uncertainty. And I'm thinking specifically in the context of the UAE, the importance of modernizing, if you will, the carbon economies with lower footprint in their production, direct air capture and storage of carbon, facilitating a more, the development of removal technologies like direct air capture and utilization of carbon within production methodologies, and of course the hydrogen value chain, because that is going to be very important for fuel, as was mentioned before.
Thank you, Veronica. So what I'm hearing here, this is about how do we keep moving forward while at the same time turning back the clock on emissions? So how do we make the world healthier but also wealthier? Iwan, from the asset management side, what's your view?
So of course, sustainable finance will be an important part of the solution, but it is not the sole solution. That's quite important, and we are within the asset management industry well aware of our responsibility. For example, in Switzerland, we're managing roughly 3,000 billion US dollars on a fiduciary duty for our clients, and there we have to always reflect that we do that on a fiduciary duty. So that means our clients, they don't want to give up returns. So if we manage the money on a sustainable manner, we always have to keep that in mind. And I think that's one of the main success factors for our industry in Switzerland. We truly believe that embedding sustainability factors in investment decision leads to better performance. And therefore, we're quite sure that not only a third right now of our clients is following our sustainability solutions, quite soon it will be almost all of our clients.
Correct, 100%. Thomas, you want something to add? I've got a follow-up question for you on that now coming to Matt, but yeah, if any comments on that?
Well, as you said in your introduction, global financial institutions have a very important role to play in this financing of the transition up to 2050. The numbers that you mentioned really break down to almost 3 to 4 trillion per year in terms of financing, which on a calendar basis is 10 billion per day. So Credit Suisse has been part of this effort. We joined the Net Zero Banking Alliance as a founding member, and we set ourselves a goal over the next 10 years to finance 300 billion. That's 30 billion per year for renewable and other transition financing. We did 44 billion in 2021, and we are trying to contribute as one of the global financial institutions to this effort. It's an enormous task, but it's also what our clients want. They want to invest in green bonds, they want to invest in renewable companies, in solar companies, wind companies, hydrogen, hydro projects. So there's plenty of investment opportunities, and the banks have a very important role to play in that.
Indeed. And Thomas, following up on that, I think more or less, like, when we start talking about ESG and sustainability, like 3-4 years ago, more or less, we saw all these numerous entities, governments coming up with different type of initiatives, but all of this work was very much ad hoc and uncoordinated. Now what's happening, we see these proliferations of alliances, of commitments in a coordinated way, and you mentioned the Net Zero Alliance, but then how do you differentiate yourself when there is such a convergence?
Well, first of all, the standards, as you rightly point out, is still in the making. So obviously you want to be very careful not to be accused of greenwashing.
Yep.
And in terms of your financial disclosure, that you really align yourself. We just issued our second sustainability report and obviously try to align as much as we can with these new financial standards, but no, not there yet. And this is, in my view, less about differentiate yourself versus others, because the demand by clients is enormous, but it's really where you can contribute, where you have differentiated strength in your offering, both from a product perspective but also regional perspective. So we are working closely together with other banks in certain situations when we do financing with governments, with corporate clients. Sometimes large oil and gas companies who want to transition. We are very clear that we want to exit the coal sector over the next 5 to 10 years. We have reduced our lending to coal-related companies by 39% in 2021 to the previous year, to oil and gas by 25%. So we are part of this effort to really finance the transition, and it's something where we at Credit Suisse, we think we can add a lot of value. We have a long history in ship finance, so we are part of the Poseidon principle, so we only want to finance ships who have modern fleets and are safe, double hulls, etc. So we are very much focused to have a responsible financing approach to some of these sectors.
Fabulous, thank you. So now that we've covered the big picture, more macro, let's zoom in. Peter, I'm looking at you now.
Yeah, that's fine.
What are the Swiss financial institutions doing concretely in this space?
Yeah, but I believe a good sort of starting example and something that we can relate to would be the upcoming IPO on 12th April with the Dubai Electric and Water Authority here in Dubai, where they're selling effectively 6.5% of total amount of shares. And I think the IPO itself is a good example of something that carries a wide range of complex liabilities. And this is something that may not at a certain time be readily available in the market. And I think this is where sort of institutions or Swiss institutions, reinsurers and insurers have an important role to play in order to bring this expertise and these products to the market and then sort of offset some of those risks. The good thing then, and why I believe that DEVA is a good example, because DEVA operates fully then in line with the industrial, the environmental strategy here, and looking to also for a sort of net zero carbon future eventually. And I think absolutely we have a role to play here, both in as during these capital raises, but also once these assets become operational as projects and developments here in the UAE. And even here, the Expo is a good example. As you know, sustainability is one of the main themes here, and also something that calls for various insurance and reinsurance products. Neighboring countries have done similar things. You're all aware of the Aramco IPO. Yep. That was sort of where they raised at a magnificent market cap, but also where some of those proceeds look to be deployed in the local economy in line with the vision in Saudi Arabia. Here we see complex developments such as NEOM on the north, in northwest Saudi Arabia. We see developments, fully sustainable developments like the line and the spine, yep. Where international contractors and contractors from the region will require complex products. They will also require services from Swiss institutions, resilience services, alternative energy hubs that we put in place here in order to support these developments.
And obviously they need claims adjusting and claims handling as well throughout the sort of the product life cycle. So I think we're very excited. We embrace and we welcome the initiatives here in the region, and we're very hopeful for the future.
Perfect. I'm going in line now. I didn't realize, it's like we planned this. We haven't planned the seating arrangement and the questions, but it happened. Francesco, now coming to you. From the international perspective, the UAE being the home of IRENA, how do you see the shift of the Middle East to a more sustainable future?
First, thank you for having me. I would say that in some way I can really witness this change. I've been involved in the UN negotiation toward Paris and after Paris. So I can really assure you that the countries here made a real change also in that context. Yep. I remember that last spring there was the first meeting of all the ministers in the region in the occasion of the visit of John Kerry. And believe me, I couldn't really believe what I was hearing. So it was really a shift 180 degrees. We also have to have in mind that Mazda is already investing in renewables from 15 years now. So I think is investing in 44 countries. I think all regions, all the countries here that I'm trying to list without losing anyone, so the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, and Algeria, they have already committed plans. And as you can see, the cost of renewables is very, very low. It's very, very competitive. And also we can see that Oman, Bahrain, Kuwait are working on plans to add renewables. But I know that I have responded to the question, but I cannot miss the opportunity to have these people here to say that my definition of sustainable finance is the finance that being engaged in the work of IRENA. So if you, as a chair of Swiss bank, afraid about initiative that may consider greenwashing, if you work with IRENA, you will not incur this challenge. You are sure working on something that is sustainable. You know, we have launched a few initiatives, the Climate Investment Platform, where we have all the multilateral financial institutions, the ETF. We are collecting projects because we are working on the planning, so the projects that we are listing are in the context of the existing plan in the countries. So it's something that is fitting the reality. It's something that will allow the financial institutions to lower down all the transition costs, because we have already projects that are ready for receiving the money of the Swiss bank. So we have to find a way to work together with the Bankers Association. IRENA is really keen to work with the private and the finance actors. And we are a trustable organization. We are global. We have 167 members. In fact, in 15 days, we will be 168. We will work on the COP27. We will work on the COP28. We are in all countries making the plan for Africa, for Southeast Asia. So I think that I wish to propose a further strengthening. I think Massimo is working on that, so we have also the chance to having a few meetings, also in the very early morning, because you are Swiss, so we have to work in the morning very early, because if not, it's impossible to work. But I think that we can find a way to be closer, without any particular engagement, so we are not asking for any financial support. The only thing we are asking is to try to connect in a way that we can make a more effective work in promoting the deployment of renewable around the world. And as you know, the future energy system will be based on renewables, there is no doubt. And that will be complemented by green hydrogen, hydrogen mainly green, and sustainable biomass. There is no other way, and we are on it.
Indeed. I think the issue around collaboration is crucial, something that we have been hearing more and more. You mentioned the identification of projects. Europe is doing a lot in terms of taxonomies, disclosure requirements that was mentioned in one of the introductions. The UAE financial regulators, exchanges, but also international organizations such as IRENA also working to develop a framework on disclosure governance and the creation of a UAE-wide taxonomy that will help investors identify those sustainable projects. Going back to finance, financial institutions, and perhaps let me come back to you, Peter. What are the driving forces of your organizations to use and promote sustainable finance products such as green bonds or loans? Or have you guys come up with specific initiatives? I know one about the Alternative Energy Hub. If you could tell us more about that, perhaps.
Yeah, so what's the driving force? I think the driving force is set forth in the overall ambition. In our case, it's about becoming the most impactful and sort of resourceful business in that sense. So there are these direct measures that we're undertaking in terms of how we travel, what kind of cars we drive. But I think what I'm very excited about is also what we're doing in the investment space. We have guidelines in place when it comes to underwriting guidelines on coal, for instance. We're developing new propositions when it comes to alternative energy, something that is from a underwriting standpoint quite complex area to deal with. So there are many of these things, but I think it's about aligning your strategy overall with the region and where you're operating, and making sure that countries like UAE and neighboring countries can achieve their vision.
Definitely, and we see more and more issues of, for example, green bonds here, a new type of products coming up. Veronica, can I come to you? Anything to comment on that as well? Your driving forces to promote this type of products? Yeah.
Absolutely. So for us, I want to build a little bit on what Thomas and Peter have said. For us, it isn't just about what we do as an organization, because even if we were perfect and by 2050 as Swiss Re we were to reach our full decarbonization and zero footprint, it wouldn't be summing up too much if as an industry overall and if as societies overall we haven't succeeded in decarbonizing. So the effort for us is making sure that we can accelerate the development of the standards that Thomas was referring to. So we co-founded with a number of leading insurance companies around the world last year the Net Zero Insurance Alliance, yep, which for us is very, very important because that allows us to compare notes on how we can really help with this transition, and looking both at the threats but also at the opportunities. So the ability to measure the carbon footprint but also to measure the positive economic benefit are both equally important for us. As Peter said, of course, our investment strategy is already tilted very strongly to ESG. We're already fully in benchmark, and I think that is, but maybe the one thing I want to drive out that is maybe more interesting to the audience here is we believe one fundamental lever is the cost, recognizing the real cost of carbon in our economy. Yep. And that's why we introduced an internal levy of $100 per ton tax for any ton of direct footprint that we have, and that is going to increase to $200 by 2030, which is massively higher than what you would find in the voluntary markets, which is about $6. And this is because when you consider the cost of moving our economies to a full decarbonization, we think that's a more fair approach. So we're starting to we've introduced it and integrated it in the way we look at our own footprint and how we make choices as an organization. And I believe this would be a tremendous accelerator of that transition if we as a societies, we recognize the full cost of carbon throughout our value chain.
Indeed. Thank you, Veronica. Thomas, what about you guys from your organization? What type of products, how do you promote these products?
Well, building on what was said and also what Ivan said, it's not only the right thing to do for a global financial institution, but it's also what clients want. And clients want to invest in these products. They want to have good returns also, so these have to be good products. And we are really only following what the market is expecting from us. So it's not only on the financing side with our corporate clients, but with our wealth management clients, our asset management clients. They want us to offer funds, they want us to offer discretionary mandates, advisory mandates around sustainability products, and that's really what we are trying to do.
Indeed. You know, I'm very surprised that no one talked about the role of regulators in helping promote this type of products. So for us, and I have to mention ADGM, we are also a financial regulator. And clearly finance plays a key role, but we mentioned greenwashing, and that's where the financial regulator can provide clarity to the market as to what constitutes these types of products. Veronica, please.
If I can build on that, I can tell you that, you know, if you're looking for a critical voice.
Yes, please.
Okay. I will say that what would make even a bigger impact is for us to be able to make these investments in renewable energy projects, investments in bonds, sustainable bonds, green bonds, which we do already as an industry. But we're somewhat limited by the capital requirements and how these are treated. So I think but I do fully agree with Thomas that we have to have the confidence that what we're investing into is of the highest possible quality, which is why we prefer as an organization carbon removal versus carbon offsetting, making sure that the projects are properly certified, that there is transparency. But the more we could have of that quality investment opportunity with a little bit of support from a regulatory standpoint, I think we would see a huge acceleration of the deployment of capital in that direction.
Great, and here in the UAE, you will be seeing that. So the 10 UAE financial regulators, exchanges, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Climate Change, and the Central Bank, we all publish a high-level statement during COP26, where we have committed ourselves to work towards disclosure requirements, governance requirements, and the UAE-wide taxonomy. We'll also be looking at capital, so more to come in the region around the sustainability framework. Now, that brings me to my final question that will be, we'd like to hear your views, all of you, all right? We still have some time, so that's fantastic. So, as mentioned, the next 2 COPs will happen in the Middle East, Egypt, and the UAE, respectively. How does this influence the agenda? What does it say about the leadership, in your viewpoint, that the region is taking? I mean, clearly, you know, some will say, or some will surprise, that a hydrocarbon producer is making such a big statements around net zero. But what's your view? How do you see this from the leadership perspective? Let me start with you. Let's go in order again. I'm being very following there.
No, it's obvious. It's a very strong signal of this region, and it's, to me, a logical next step to all the initiatives which have all taken place already here. So it's a very strong signal, and I hope COP27 and 28 will follow the path of the COP26 and before. So we will become even more binding in what we should do and how we should act. And if I say that, I mean the whole value chain. So it's not just one separate industry, but the whole value chain. And then we can go this path we already did before.
Indeed, indeed. And let's not forget, Francesco mentioned this earlier, particularly here in the UAE, the government, well, the UAE as a whole, through Masdar, they've invested around 17 billion in renewable energies across 6 continents in the world. There's a lot of work going on here in the region, and this is to be highlighted. And with the help of the financial services industry and other international players, we look forward to move forward the agenda. Thomas, your views?
No, I agree. I think it sends a great signal, and it shows how serious the whole region is about transition. And you mentioned the example of the Aramco IPO, where Credit Suisse could be also a book runner, but we were criticized to be on that IPO, but actually it really is part of the toolkit for a country like Saudi Arabia really to finance its transition into a renewable world, and through the proceeds they could reinvest it. And I'm also obviously aware about the demographics in this region, which are a very young population. They are very future oriented, they are very serious about the transition, and I think it's a huge commitment and opportunity. We are very optimistic about this region, unfortunately, because also of the situation around Russia and Ukraine, the very important role they have to play in the short term, but in the mid to long term, there's no question that all the countries in this region are fully committed to this transition, and I think we have an important role to play in this transition.
Indeed, and also I see it as well as a natural next step, right? It's a natural next step to diversify their economy and to create economic value through the transition. Veronica?
You just stole my line.
Oh,
it
sorry.
is. I will say it's a case of policy and markets coming together. That's what I believe. And so the region has been blessed with a lot of natural resources, but one of the resources that I believe Francesco will agree, they're going to invest ever more on is renewable energy. And there is, incredible opportunity in this region to reconvert their production activities. And I think with the Energy Acceleration Hub that has been launched, and I understand will receive even more financing, they can be a driving engine of international energy supply. The other thing I would note, having worked in the region for a while, is the incredible ability of nature here to adapt. So the mangroves, the nature-based solutions that exist in this region are really unique and could be exported internationally. And that's an area adaptation where we have very limited case studies. So I really would welcome leadership in that area as well.
Very good suggestion, please. Yeah.
No, but I think it's very good to see. I think there is a sense of urgency, and whatever the starting point is, the countries are moving away from oil dependency, and I think there are the wealth funds have an incredibly strong position, and they can fast track this development, and we look forward to partner with them in any way we can.
Fabulous, thank you. Francesco.
Before responding to your question, you put his attention to regulators. And I have to say this because if not, my people in the room will complain with me later on. Please. So, when we are working in our outlook, we pose a great attention to technologies, but also on the policies. And we are convinced that actually the market are not working in the way to favor the renewables, because the market are still working in kind of contract that are linked to an old system that is decentralized and based on fossil fuel. So we need policies and changing the way the market works. So long contract for renewables, short-term contract for the instrument that they provide flexibility. We will come with a publication on this, and I hope that this will be much welcome. But coming to the COP, I think it's very important. We have to realize that the ambition also of the two host countries. So possibly in COP27 we'll be focusing on Africa. So in some way they are already calling the African COP. And naturally we are working already with the Egyptian government as we are working with the UAE government. I think there is a huge possibility that finally we move the COPs from the negotiation mood that was in the past, and now it's not anymore reasonable to have it. So we have to make the case for the implementation. So saying what is possible to do for Africa, and then the UAE will have the great chance to link the work with the Egyptian presidency to the East and connect the world together find a way for a better implementation. It's not time for working on negotiating document. It's the time to understand what is needed to be done, where the difficulties are, and how it will be possible to overcome the difficulties. So I think this is the road for the two COPs. We are working with the governments in this respect. Naturally, we are serving them, but we can suggest that we have to move in this direction if we want to get the best result, and giving the leadership they need for the Egyptian in the area, and to the UAE that is more global, looking to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south.
Indeed, so collaboration, crucial as well, and perhaps also, the need to move from the talk to the action. We didn't mention something, but while you were talking, Francesco, digital transformation also plays a key role in all of this. New type of energy, we mentioned briefly hydrogen, carbon markets. We see the proliferation of voluntary carbon markets now happening as well here in the UAE. And then also something that I don't know if anyone has any views, we have a bit more time left. The connection between, for example, Islamic finance and sustainable finance, clearly we're talking about two different things, but they do share some commonalities, and this is quite important here in the region. So looking at, let's say, three main areas. One will be digital transformation, fintech, the use of blockchain, IA, to promote and scale up sustainable finance. The second one will be new sectors, energy sectors, hydrogen, carbon. And then the third one will be the connection between similar areas, such as, for example, Islamic finance and sustainable finance. I'm thinking about the Swiss UAE and how that collaboration, looking at those three specific areas, could help move forward the agenda ahead of COP28. I'm going to open the floor. This was just one final remark. Any views from anyone on that?
I'm happy to get started. On the first one, I think is the development of carbon trading markets over and beyond what exists today is fundamental. But again, I would say transparency and the quality of the certificates, and making sure that I think in the Swiss economy, there will be a lot of positive reception for certificates of quality and high guarantee, and I think those standards are important. Where IT and, if you will, digitalization, Mercedes, makes a big difference is the ability to monitor the development of these projects, whether it's nature-based or industrial-based, to be able to see what the actual impact and reduction is on the ground over time rather than once a year. It is fundamental. It's going to be a game changer. But we need an independent assessment mechanism, and today it's very fragmented. Maybe I'll comment on the latter point about the collaboration with the Islamic finance. And I think this is something that it's close to my heart. I work also in the area of developmental finance, and I think the UAE has an opportunity to do more also to help within the region and more broadly within Africa, where there is some affinity also culturally, to help through a just transition. Many African countries will have problems with bringing along their populations. We do know that climate change is regressive, and so I think there is an opportunity to protect informal economies, less developed economies through a form of partnerships. We've done that around the world, and I'm sure the Swiss government with SECO, SDC, will be willing to collaborate if there are the right platforms.
Thank you. Please, Tom.
I think the three go hand in hand, actually: Islamic finance, digital finance, sustainable finance. And I've been challenging our regional head, Bruno Daher, here to do more in this sector. I mean, I think that we Swiss banks have very good digital private banking tools, digital wealth management tools in Switzerland, but I think there's much more we can do with partners in the region, because we are, as a bank, much more ultra high net worth, which is more high touch. But in the high net worth space, I think there's a huge opportunity to be much more high tech and to work with clients. And they want to be able also to have investment propositions, which have to be also sustainable investment propositions. So I think it's a huge opportunity for banks like Credit Suisse to actually really roll out the experience we have in our home market and to work with clients in the region to offer these type of financing and investment solutions.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. I think that's a great place to end our discussion. It just remains to say thank you very much to the organizers for bringing us all together today for this great discussion. And of course, thank you to all the panelists for your leadership and insights. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And before we conclude this fascinating discussion and panel, let me just say that personally I was very much reassured that the Swiss financial institution will be able to give a key contribution to transition towards a sustainable finance in Switzerland, and abroad, and I'm very happy that we have been able to showcase our know-how here today to learn from other experience and to give our contribution. Before I conclude this workshop, please give me the opportunities to advertise a little bit the work of the embassy here, especially looking forward to what we are planning to do next week. We are very much scared that we will be bored after the 6 months of very hectic time we had at the Expo. So in order not to be bored, we are planning 2 major, not only events, but 2 programs for next year. One will be during the first semester of next year. We will celebrate 50 years of our bilateral relations, and for me, I think it would be an excellent opportunity to continue the work we have been doing here in the UAE with the Expo, but not only at the Expo and at the embassy, together with our friends from Swiss institutions and UAE institution and the private sector. We are putting together a program to celebrate these 50 years of bilateral relations, and I would like very much to be able to have also an event devoted to finance, and we will get back to you with a proposal that eventually you will adhere to. And the second semester, of course, will be very much devoted to COP28. It has been mentioned already. Believe me, it's a major conference. I had the chance to organize for the Swiss government COP22 in Marrakesh 2016. Nowadays, COP is from far the largest UN conference. We had 30,000, yes, 30,000 delegates in Marrakesh in 2016 with an extremely strong participation of the private sector. Therefore, please put already in your agenda your next trip to the UAE. Minister, you have to come again. You have been very committed towards the UAE. We are looking forward very much to seeing you next year. One organizational remark for those among you who got a blue tag. This will give you fast-track access to a few very, very busy pavilions like India, UAE, Japan, and KSA. Believe me, this badge makes the difference now for those who are willing to visit those pavilions. Otherwise, we are coming to an end. I thank you all, Minister, the official delegation and the delegation from Switzerland, from the private sector, and all of you for being here today and for making the success of this financial day, which is very much a success up until now. It will continue. Thank you very much and enjoy the lunch. Thank you.